The phone buzzed at 2:17 a.m., casting a pale glow across our bedroom ceiling. Cassandra stirred beside me, her hand instinctively reaching for the device like a moth drawn to flame. In the dim light, I watched her fingers dance across the screen with practiced precision. "Just Lila," she whispered, thinking I was asleep. "Some wellness emergency." Wellness emergency. At 2 in the morning. Right. I'm Elliot Roman, 38 years old, and I fix computers for a living. Not glamorous, but it pays the bills and keeps me sharp. Sharp enough to notice when my wife of 7 years started acting like a stranger in our own house. The house we'd bought together on Maple Street, with its creaky floors and drafty windows, suddenly felt foreign. Cass had been different for months, distant, secretive, always on her phone managing social media accounts for local businesses. Or so she claimed. "Eli, honey," she'd said 3 weeks ago, "I need to use some of our vacation fund, just temporarily. My friend Derek is in a tight spot, and..." Derek Lawton. High school football hero turned real estate hotshot. The kind of guy who wore expensive cologne to mask the stench of his personality. I'd met him at town events, watched him work rooms like a predator sizing up prey. "How much?" I'd asked. 5,000, maybe 6. I'll pay it back before our Tokyo trip." Tokyo. We'd been planning that trip for 2 years, saving every spare dollar. It was supposed to be our second honeymoon, a chance to reconnect. Instead, it became the rope she used to hang herself. Now, lying in the darkness, I listened to her thumbs tapping against glass. The soft glow illuminated her face, revealing something I'd never seen before. Guilt mixed with excitement. The expression of someone living a double life. I waited until her breathing deepened, then slipped out of bed. My phone sat on the dresser, and I opened our banking app with trembling fingers. The vacation account showed a balance of $3,247. Last week, it had been $11,800. My chest tightened. $8,553. Gone. I scrolled through the transaction history. 5 withdrawals over the past month, all authorized by Cass. The memo lines were creative. Emergency car repair, medical expenses, home improvement. But I knew better. Our car ran fine. We were both healthy. And the only thing being improved was Derek Lawton's bank account. Before we deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I grabbed my laptop from the home office and settled into the garage workshop, my sanctuary filled with old computers, circuit boards, and half-finished projects. The space smelled of solder and motor oil, familiar scents that usually calmed me. Tonight, they couldn't touch the rage building in my chest. 20 minutes of digging through our digital footprint painted a clear picture. Cass had been sloppy, leaving traces everywhere. Restaurant charges at places we'd never been together, hotel bookings in the next town over, text messages she thought she'd hidden. The worst part wasn't the money, or even the cheating, it was the arrogance. She genuinely believed I was too stupid to notice, too passive to fight back. The quiet IT guy who fixed everyone's problems but never made waves. She was about to learn how wrong she could be. I opened a new browser window and began transferring the remaining vacation funds to my personal account. Then I booked a one-way ticket to Tokyo, departing in 3 days. If she wanted to play games with our future, I'd show her what it felt like to have the rug pulled out from under her perfectly pedicured feet. The garage door creaked as I worked, but I didn't care. Let her wake up. Let her find me here, surrounded by the tools and knowledge she'd always dismissed as boring. Tonight, boring was about to become dangerous. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Your wife's at the Riverside Motel, room 237. Thought you should know. A friend." I stared at the message, feeling something shift inside me. The old Eli would have confronted her tearfully, begged for explanations, maybe even blamed himself. But that version of me had been funding his wife's affair for months, working extra hours to fill a vacation account that was really a slush fund for her betrayal. The new Eli had different plans. I spent the next hour documenting everything. Screenshots of bank transactions, copies of text messages, photos of receipts I'd found hidden in her purse. When someone decides to destroy your life, you'd better have evidence of your own. By sunrise, I had enough ammunition to end her reputation in our small Maine town. Castle Falls might not be big, but gossip traveled faster than wildfire here. One well-placed conversation at Murphy's Diner or the Riverside Bar, and the whole town would know what kind of woman Cassandra Roman really was. But that felt too easy, too quick. She'd spent months planning this betrayal, enjoying the thrill of deceiving me. I wanted her to experience the same slow-burn realization that her world was crumbling. The front door slammed upstairs. Cass was home from her wellness emergency. I smiled in the dim garage light and began planning her education. Cassandra's heels clicked against the hardwood floor above me, each step sharp and purposeful. She was trying to be quiet, but after 7 years of marriage, I knew her rhythms. This was the walk of someone who thought they'd gotten away with something. I gave her 10 minutes to settle in, then climbed the stairs. She sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone with a cup of coffee, still wearing the same clothes from yesterday. Her dark hair was mussed, makeup smudged around her eyes. "Morning, sweetheart," I said, pouring my own coffee. "How was Lila's emergency?" She didn't look up. "Panic attack. You know how she gets." "At the Riverside Motel?" The phone slipped from her fingers, clattering against the wooden table. Her green eyes went wide, then narrowed as she calculated her next move. I'd seen that expression before, usually when she was crafting social media posts for difficult clients. "What are you talking about?" I set my phone on the table, the mysterious text message displayed clearly. "Room 237. Nice choice. I hear they have those vibrating beds from the 70s. Cass stood abruptly, coffee sloshing over the rim of her mug. "You're having me followed? That's insane, Eli. What's insane is thinking I wouldn't notice $8,000 disappearing from our account." I kept my voice level, conversational. "What's insane is believing I'm too stupid to add 2 plus 2. Her face cycled through emotions, surprise, anger, calculation, then something approaching panic. "I can explain." "I'm sure you can. You're creative. All those social media campaigns taught you how to spin a story." I pulled out my laptop and opened the banking app. "But numbers don't lie, Cass. Neither do credit card statements." She moved around the table, trying to see the screen. "Eli, please. It's not what you think." "Really? Because I think you've been having an affair with Derek Lawton for months. I think you've been using our vacation money to fund your little romance. I think you've been treating me like an ATM with legs." The words hung in the air between us. Cass opened her mouth, closed it, then tried a different approach. "Derek needed help. His business is struggling, and you decided to help him with our money. Without asking, without even telling me." I closed the laptop and leaned back in my chair. "How long?" "How long what?" "How long have you been sleeping with him?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. We're not... "Cass." I said her name quietly, the way you'd speak to a cornered animal. "I found the hotel receipts. I saw the text messages. I know about the restaurant in Portland where you celebrated your 3-month anniversary." Her composure cracked. Tears welled in her eyes, but they looked calculated, performed. "I never meant for this to happen. Derek and I, we were just friends, and then you decided our marriage was worth less than whatever he was offering." I stood and walked to the kitchen window, looking out at our small backyard. "The funny thing is, I might have understood if you'd just been honest. If you'd said you were unhappy, that you wanted something different." "I do want something different," she whispered. "Well, congratulations. You're about to get it." I turned back to face her. Cass had composed herself, wiping away the crocodile tears. She looked more like the woman I'd married, confident, determined, ready to fight for what she wanted. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I transferred the rest of our vacation money to my personal account this morning. It means I changed the passwords on all our shared accounts. It means I booked a flight to Tokyo and you're not invited." Her face went pale. "You can't do that. That's my money too." "Actually, I can. Remember when you signed those banking documents last month? The ones you said were for insurance purposes?" I smiled, enjoying the confusion in her eyes. "Those were actually forms giving me sole access to our accounts in case of emergency. I'd say your affair qualifies." That was a lie, of course. We still had joint access to everything, but Cass had always been lazy about financial details, letting me handle the boring paperwork while she focused on her career. Her ignorance was about to cost her. "That's not legal. I'll call the bank." "Go ahead, but you might want to check your credit cards first." She grabbed her phone and started dialing. I watched her face change as she navigated through automated menus, waited on hold, then spoke to a representative. The conversation was brief and one-sided. "They're frozen," she said, staring at me. "All of them." "Fraud protection. I reported suspicious activity on our accounts. Someone was making unauthorized withdrawals, staying at cheap motels, buying expensive dinners for people who weren't their spouse." I shrugged. "The bank takes that seriously." "You bastard." The mask finally slipped completely. This was the real Cassandra. Calculating, vicious, entitled. "You can't just steal my money and leave me with nothing." "I'm not stealing anything. I'm protecting what's left of our assets while I figure out how to untangle this mess you created. I moved toward the stairs, then paused. Oh, and Cass, you might want to find somewhere else to stay for a while. I need space to think. This is my house too. Actually, it's not. Check the deed. My name, my credit, my down payment. You're welcome to fight me on it, but that'll require a lawyer, and lawyers are expensive. Another lie. The house was in both our names. But Cass had never bothered to read the mortgage documents, trusting me to handle the details. Her laziness was becoming my weapon. I climbed the stairs, leaving her standing in the kitchen. Behind me, I heard her phone buzzing with frantic calls, probably to Derek, maybe to Lila, definitely to anyone who might help her figure out what had just happened. In our bedroom, I began packing methodically. Clothes, toiletries, important documents. Everything I'd need for an extended stay somewhere else. Because despite what I'd told Cass, I was the one who'd be leaving. Let her have the house for now. I had bigger plans. My phone rang. Derek Lawton's name flashed on the screen. I answered on the fourth ring. Elliot Roman. We need to talk. His voice was tight, controlled. The tone of a man trying to project authority while his world shifted beneath him. Do we? I can't imagine what we'd have to discuss. Your wife is hysterical. She says you've frozen all her accounts, that you're threatening to kick her out. My wife is a liar and a thief. But then you already knew that. I sat on the edge of the bed, enjoying the silence on the other end of the line. Tell me, Derek, how does it feel to be the other man? Is it everything you dreamed it would be? Listen, you little... No, you listen. My voice dropped to a whisper. You made a mistake when you decided to steal from me. Both of you did. And now you're going to learn what happens when you underestimate the quiet guy who fixes computers. I hung up and powered off the phone. Let them panic. Let them try to figure out their next move while operating in the dark. I had work to do. Murphy's Diner buzzed with the usual morning crowd, construction workers, retirees, and gossips fueling up on coffee and small-town drama. I chose a corner booth with clear sightlines to the entrance and settled in with my laptop and a plate of eggs. Rough night? Jenny Murphy, the owner's daughter, refilled my coffee cup with practiced ease. She'd graduated high school with Cass and maintained the kind of surface-level friendship that thrived on shared secrets and mutual judgment. Could be better, I admitted, loud enough for the neighboring tables to hear. Marriage troubles. Jenny's eyes lit up with the predatory gleam of someone who'd just stumbled onto fresh gossip. I'm sorry to hear that. Anything I can do? Just trying to figure out where $8,000 went. I sighed heavily, playing the part of the confused, betrayed husband. Cass says it was for emergencies, but I can't find any record of what kind of emergencies cost that much. The diner went noticeably quieter. In Castle Falls, $8,000 was serious money, the kind of sum that bought new cars or paid for medical procedures, not the kind that disappeared without explanation. That's awful, Eli. Have you talked to the bank? They're investigating. Apparently there were some unusual transactions. Hotel stays, expensive restaurants. I shook my head, letting the implications hang in the air. I just don't understand who she was with. I didn't mention Derek by name, didn't need to. Jenny would connect the dots herself, then share her theories with everyone who'd listen. By noon, half the town would be speculating about Cassandra Roman's mysterious expenses. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Parking lot behind the hardware store, 10 minutes. Derek. Predictable. I finished my breakfast slowly, made sure to tip Jenny generously, then drove across town to Miller's Hardware. The parking lot was empty except for a red BMW parked in the far corner. Derek sat behind the wheel, sunglasses on despite the overcast morning. I parked next to him and rolled down my window. He did the same, revealing a face that belonged on a gym membership brochure. All sharp angles and artificial confidence. Get in, he said. I'm comfortable here. We need to talk privately. This is private enough. I gestured to the empty lot. What's on your mind, Derek? He removed his sunglasses, revealing red eyes and the kind of stress lines that came from a sleepless night. Your wife is scared. She thinks you're going to destroy her. My wife is a thief. She stole from our joint account to fund whatever this is between you two. I kept my voice calm, reasonable. I'm just protecting what's left. She borrowed money to help me through a rough patch. That's not stealing. Without telling her husband, using funds we'd saved for a specific purpose, I shook my head. That's exactly stealing. Derek's jaw tightened. Look, I'll pay you back, every penny. Just unfreeze her accounts and stop this nonsense. What nonsense? Don't play games with me. I know you've been spreading stories around town, making Cass look bad. I haven't said anything that isn't true. I smiled. But it's interesting that you think the truth makes her look bad. He started to respond, then caught himself. Derek might be arrogant, but he wasn't stupid. He'd realized he was digging his own grave. What do you want? He asked finally. I want my wife to stop lying to me. I want my money back. I want to understand how long this has been going on. I leaned closer to the window. But mostly, I want both of you to understand that actions have consequences. Is that a threat? It's a promise. You decided to involve me in your relationship by stealing my money. Now I'm involved, and I'm very good at solving problems. Derek's face darkened. You think you can intimidate me? I know people in this town. I have connections. So do I. The difference is, mine don't care about your high school football trophies. I rolled up my window and drove away, leaving him sitting in the empty parking lot. In my rearview mirror, I watched him pound the steering wheel in frustration. Phase 1 was complete. The gossip network was activated, Derek was rattled, and Cass was probably climbing the walls trying to figure out her next move. Time for Phase 2. I drove to the Riverside Bar, a dive establishment that catered to day drinkers and night shift workers, the kind of place where Derek Lawton would never be caught, which made it perfect for my purposes. Tommy Brennan, the bartender, looked up from polishing glasses as I entered. We'd gone to high school together, though we'd traveled in different circles. He was the kind of guy who knew everyone's business but kept his mouth shut unless there was something in it for him. Eli Roman. Don't see you in here often. Special occasion. I ordered a beer and settled onto a bar stool. Tommy, you know Derek Lawton? His expression soured. Unfortunately, guy's a piece of work. How so? Comes in here sometimes, usually with married women who aren't his wife, acts like he owns the place, tips like garbage, treats the staff like servants. Tommy set my beer on the bar. Why? He's been sleeping with my wife. Tommy's eyebrows rose. Cass? Damn, man. I'm sorry. It gets worse. He's been using money from our vacation fund to pay for their little adventures. That's rough. Tommy glanced around the empty bar, then leaned closer. You want some advice? Derek's got a reputation. This isn't his first time breaking up a marriage. Really? Last year, it was Janet Morrison. Her husband found out, nearly took Derek's head off with a baseball bat. Derek disappeared for a month, came back acting like nothing happened. What happened to the Morrisons? Divorced. Janet moved to Portland, kids stayed with their dad. Tommy shook his head. Derek walked away clean, found himself a new target. My wife. The new target. Tommy, if I wanted to make Derek's life difficult, hypothetically, what would you suggest? The bartender grinned, showing teeth stained by years of coffee and cigarettes. Hypothetically, Derek's got a few weaknesses. He's vain, he's got a temper, and he's stupid enough to think everyone in town respects him. Go on. He drives that BMW like it's a trophy, parks it in the same spot every day, right in front of his office where everyone can see it. Takes better care of that car than he does his relationships. I filed that information away. Anything else? He's got a standing poker game every Thursday night at the Elks Lodge. Likes to brag about his conquests, show off pictures on his phone. Tommy's grin widened. Hypothetically, someone might find those conversations interesting. I finished my beer and left a 20 on the bar. Thanks for the hypothetical advice. Any time. And Eli, good luck. Derek's had this coming for a long time. Outside, I sat in my car and made a list. Derek's vulnerabilities, Cass's weaknesses, the social dynamics that governed our small town, everything I'd need to dismantle their little romance piece by piece. My phone rang. Cass. Eli, please, we need to talk. I thought we already did that. I mean really talk, without the accusations and the threats. Her voice was softer now, more like the woman I'd married. I made mistakes, I know that, but we can work through this. Can we? Because it seems like you've already made your choice. Derek doesn't mean anything to me. It was just, I don't know, a distraction, a mistake. A mistake that cost us $8,000. I'll pay it back, every penny. Just please don't destroy our marriage over this. I almost felt sorry for her, almost. But then I remembered the hotel receipts, the secret phone calls, the months of lies and deception. Our marriage was destroyed the moment you decided Derek was worth more than our future together. That's not fair. Neither is stealing from your husband to fund an affair. I hung up and turned off the phone. Cass had made her bed. Now she could lie in it. With Derek. Thursday evening found me parked across the street from the Elks Lodge, watching Derek's BMW gleam under the streetlights. The poker game had started an hour ago, which meant Derek was inside, probably 3 drinks deep and bragging about his latest conquest. I'd spent the week gathering intelligence, following routines, learning schedules. Derek was a creature of habit. Same coffee shop every morning, same lunch spot, same parking space outside his real estate office. Predictable, vulnerable. My phone buzzed with a text from Cass. "Please call me. We need to talk." I deleted it without responding. She'd sent 17 similar messages over the past 3 days, each one more desperate than the last. The frozen accounts had done their job. Without access to credit cards or cash, she was effectively trapped. Derek's office light was still on across town. He'd left it burning to create the impression he was working late, a trick I'd learned from watching his patterns. In reality, he was inside the lodge, probably showing off photos of his latest conquest to his drinking buddies. Time to make my move. I pulled on latex gloves and grabbed a small toolkit from my passenger seat. The BMW's security system was impressive, but not impenetrable. 20 minutes of careful work with a slim gym and a voltage detector, and I was inside. The interior smelled like expensive cologne and desperation. I popped the hood and located the air intake, then carefully inserted a small package wrapped in cheesecloth. Raw shrimp, aged to perfection in my garage for the past week. By tomorrow morning, Derek's pride and joy would smell like a fish market dumpster. For good measure, I smeared petroleum jelly under the door handles and on the steering wheel. Invisible in the dark, but impossible to ignore once touched. The pièce de résistance was a small device I'd assembled from spare computer parts, a Bluetooth speaker programmed to emit random sounds at unpredictable intervals. I tucked it under the passenger seat, where it would be nearly impossible to locate without tearing apart the interior. 30 minutes later, I was back in my car, watching Derek emerge from the lodge with 3 other men. They were laughing loudly, clearly intoxicated, slapping each other on the back with the forced camaraderie of middle-aged men pretending to be young again. Derek approached his car with the swagger of someone who'd had a good night. He grabbed the door handle and immediately jerked his hand back, wiping it on his pants. Confusion crossed his face as he tried the other handle with the same result. His friends gathered around, offering advice and amateur theories. Derek eventually managed to get inside using his sleeve as protection, but I could see his frustration mounting as he tried to grip the petroleum-coated steering wheel. The BMW started normally and pulled out of the parking lot. I gave him a 5-minute head start, then followed at a distance. By the time he reached his condo, the smell would be noticeable. By morning, it would be overwhelming. My phone rang as I drove home. Unknown number. "Hello? You son of a—" Derek's voice was tight with rage. "I know this was you." "I'm sorry, who is this?" "Don't play games with me. What did you do to my car?" "I have no idea what you're talking about. Is everything okay?" "My car smells like rotten fish, and there's some kind of grease all over the interior." "That's terrible. Have you considered taking it to a detergent shop?" "This isn't over." "You're right. It's just getting started." I hung up and smiled in the darkness. Derek's evening was ruined, but his real problems would begin tomorrow when he tried to drive to work in a car that smelled like a seafood processing plant. The next morning, I positioned myself at Murphy's Diner with a clear view of Main Street. Derek's office sat directly across from the diner, and his usual parking spot was empty. Other cars filled the spaces around it, but the BMW was nowhere to be seen. "Morning, Eli." Jenny Murphy appeared with coffee and a knowing smile. "Heard Derek Lawton had some car trouble last night." "Really? What kind of trouble?" "Something about a smell. Had to have it towed to Portland for cleaning." She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Funny thing is, some people are saying it smells like fish, like someone put rotten seafood in the vents." "That's odd. Who would do something like that?" "Well, word around town is that Derek's been stepping out with married women again. Maybe someone decided to send him a message." I sipped my coffee thoughtfully. "Any idea who?" "Could be anyone. Derek's made a lot of enemies over the years." Jenny's smile turned predatory. "Speaking of which, how are things with you and Cass?" "Still working through our problems. Marriage counseling, you know." "That's good. I heard she's been staying at the Riverside Motel." I hadn't heard that, but I wasn't surprised. With her accounts frozen and Derek's car out of commission, her options were limited. "We're taking some space to figure things out." "Smart. Sometimes you need distance to see clearly." I finished my breakfast and drove to the hardware store, where I purchased zip ties, spray paint, and a few other supplies. Then I headed to the Riverside Motel. Cass's car sat in the parking lot outside room 237, the same room where she'd been conducting her affair. The irony was perfect. I waited until she left for lunch, then approached her vehicle. The zip ties went around the exhaust pipe, securing a small canister of spray paint. When the car heated up, the canister would rupture, filling the exhaust system with bright pink paint. Not dangerous, but impossible to ignore. My phone buzzed with another text from Cass. I know you're angry, but this has gone too far. Can we please talk like adults? I typed back, adults don't steal from their spouses. Her response came immediately. I'll give you the money back, all of it. Derek has agreed to pay. Where's Derek getting $8,000? His business is struggling, remember? A long pause, then. He has savings. Interesting. Yesterday he needed to borrow money from my wife. Today he has savings. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. Which story is true, Cass? No response. I drove to Derek's office and parked across the street. His secretary, a middle-aged woman named Rita, sat behind the reception desk looking harried. Through the window, I could see Derek pacing behind his desk, phone pressed to his ear. The BMW was still missing, replaced by a rental car that screamed budget economy. Derek's image was everything in his business. Showing up to million-dollar property showings in a compact sedan would hurt his credibility with clients. My phone rang. Derek again. We need to meet. I don't think that's necessary. I'm prepared to make you an offer. What kind of offer? $10,000. Cash. In exchange for leaving me and Cass alone. I laughed. You're offering me $10,000 of my own money? What? Where do you think that cash is coming from, Derek? Your thriving real estate business? Or maybe the $8,000 you borrowed from my wife? Silence. Here's my counteroffer. I continued. You disappear from our lives. Completely. No contact with Cass, no more borrowing money, no more playing the victim. In exchange, I'll consider not sharing the photos I have of you two together. What photos? The ones from your anniversary dinner in Portland. Very romantic. I'm sure your clients would love to see them, especially the married ones who trust you with their most important investments. Another lie, but Derek didn't know that. His breathing became labored on the other end of the line. You're bluffing. Am I? How well do you really know your girlfriend, Derek? How careful has she been about hiding your relationship? I hung up and watched through the window as Derek stared at his phone. His face had gone pale, and he was running his hands through his hair. Classic signs of panic. The trap was closing. All I had to do now was wait for them to make their next mistake. The call came at 6 a.m. on Saturday morning. Derek's voice was strained, desperate. She's gone. I sat up in bed, instantly alert. Who's gone? Cass. She cleared out of the motel sometime during the night. Took everything. And you're telling me this because? Because she cleaned out my business account before she left. $23,000, everything I had. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. That's unfortunate. Have you called the police? With what? She had access to my accounts. I gave her the passwords myself. His voice cracked. She played us both, Eli. This whole thing was a setup. I got out of bed and walked to the kitchen window. Cass's car was gone from the driveway. Her clothes were missing from the closet. Even her coffee mug, the one with her company logo, had disappeared from the sink. When did you last see her? Yesterday evening. She came by my office, said she had a plan to get your money back, asked me to transfer funds to a temporary account so she could show you she was serious about making things right. And you believed her? She was crying, said you'd threatened to ruin both of us, that this was the only way to fix things. Derek's voice turned bitter. She was very convincing. I had to admire her strategy. While I'd been focused on Derek, Cass had been planning her exit. The helpless, trapped wife act had been performance art, designed to keep both of us distracted while she positioned herself for the final score. Derek, I hate to say this, but I think we've both been played. What do we do? We? There is no we. You helped my wife steal from me, remember? That was different. You thought you were smarter than everyone else. You thought the quiet computer guy wouldn't fight back. You thought wrong. I hung up and began searching the house systematically. Cass had been thorough. Important documents were missing. Birth certificate, passport, social security card. The jewelry box in our bedroom was empty. Even the spare cash I kept hidden in the garage was gone. My laptop chimed with a new email. The sender was listed as Cassandra R2024 at protonmail.com. Eli, by the time you read this, I'll be somewhere you can't find me. I want you to know that everything between Derek and me was real, but it was also practical. He was never the end game. You were. Your steady job, your savings, your predictable nature. All of it was useful until it wasn't. The affair was just a way to keep you distracted while I prepared for my real future. Derek served his purpose too. His business account was surprisingly easy to access once he trusted me. I'm sorry it ended this way, but you forced my hand with your petty revenge games. Don't look for me. You won't succeed. Consider this tuition for a valuable life lesson about trusting people. C. I read the message 3 times, feeling something cold settle in my chest. Not heartbreak. That would have required believing our marriage was real. This was something else. Recognition, maybe. The understanding that I'd been living with a stranger for 7 years. My phone rang. Derek again. Did you get an email? Yeah. She's been planning this for months, hasn't she? The affair, the money, all of it. Looks that way. We have to find her, get our money back. Your money, Derek? She stole from you. My money disappeared the moment you started sleeping with my wife. That's not fair. I'm a victim here too. No, you're an idiot. There's a difference. I hung up and deleted Cass's email. Then I opened my laptop and began the process of rebuilding my life. The first step was changing every password, canceling every shared account, and securing what assets remained. Cass had been thorough, but she'd also been greedy. Taking everything at once would leave a trail. The second step was calling my lawyer, Janet Morrison, the woman Tommy had mentioned at the bar, Derek's previous victim. She'd rebuilt her life after her divorce, started a family law practice, and developed a reputation for handling cases involving infidelity and financial fraud. Janet Morrison. Ms. Morrison, this is Elliot Roman. I need help with a divorce. What kind of help? The kind where my wife cleaned out our accounts and disappeared with her boyfriend's money, too. A pause. Derek Lawton? You know him? Unfortunately. Can you be in my office in an hour? Janet's office was small but efficient, decorated with family photos and legal certifications. She was younger than I'd expected, with short brown hair and the kind of focused intensity that came from personal experience with betrayal. Tell me everything, she said. I laid out the timeline, the missing money, the affair, the hotel receipts, Derek's involvement, and Cass's final disappearance. Janet took notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions. How much are we talking about total? $8,000 from our vacation account, plus whatever she took from Derek. Maybe $30,000 altogether. That's felony territory. Have you contacted the police? Not yet. I wanted to understand my options first. Janet leaned back in her chair. Your wife committed several crimes, theft, fraud, possibly identity theft if she used your information to access accounts. Derek's situation is more complicated since he gave her access voluntarily. What are my chances of getting the money back? Depends on how smart she was about hiding it. If she moved everything offshore or converted it to cryptocurrency, it could be difficult. If she's still in the country using credit cards and ATMs, we have a chance. And Derek? Derek made his own choices. He's not your responsibility. I signed the retainer agreement and authorized Janet to begin divorce proceedings. Then I drove home to start the process of erasing Cassandra Roman from my life. The house felt different without her presence. Cleaner somehow, less cluttered with the emotional debris of a failing relationship. I packed her remaining belongings into boxes and stacked them in the garage. Let Derek deal with them if he wanted. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This isn't over. I know people. I'll make you pay for what you did to my car. Derek, still fighting the wrong battle. I typed back, Your car was the least of your problems. Check your email. Then I forwarded him Cass's confession message and blocked his number. The afternoon sun slanted through the kitchen windows as I sat at the table with a cup of coffee, planning my next moves. Tokyo was still an option. The plane ticket was refundable, and I had enough savings left for a real vacation. Or I could stay in Castle Falls, rebuild my life here, maybe even enjoy the schadenfreude of watching Derek's reputation crumble. My phone rang. Janet Morrison. I found her. Already? She's in Boston, staying at the Marriott downtown. Used her real name and a credit card tied to an account she opened last month. Janet's voice carried a note of satisfaction. She's not as smart as she thinks she is. What's the next step? I've contacted the Boston police and the FBI. Financial fraud across state lines makes this a federal case. They'll pick her up tonight. And the money? Most of it's still in accounts we can trace. She spent maybe $5,000, but the rest is recoverable. I felt something loosen in my chest. Not relief exactly, but a sense of completion. Justice, maybe. Or just the satisfaction of watching a plan come together. What about Derek? He'll get his money back, minus legal fees and penalties, but his reputation is finished. Word travels fast in small towns, especially when it involves theft and adultery. Good. Eli, can I ask you something? Sure. Why didn't you just divorce her when you found out about the affair? Why the elaborate revenge scheme? I thought about that for a moment. Because she thought I was weak, predictable, someone who would just roll over and take whatever she decided to dish out. I paused. I wanted her to know she was wrong. Mission accomplished. That evening, I sat on my front porch with a beer, watching the sunset over Castle Falls. The town looked peaceful from here, small houses with well-kept lawns, kids riding bicycles, neighbors walking dogs. A place where people knew each other's business, but mostly minded their own. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Boston woman arrested in multi-state fraud scheme. I didn't need to read the article to know it was about Cass. By tomorrow, the story would reach Castle Falls. The gossip network that had helped spread rumors about Derek would now focus on his partner in crime. Derek's BMW finally returned to town that evening, delivered by a towing company. Even from a distance, I could see the bright pink exhaust stains covering the rear bumper. The smell would be gone by now, but the paint would be permanent, a scarlet letter on wheels. I finished my beer and went inside to plan my trip to Tokyo. Alone this time, but that was fine. I'd learned something valuable about the difference between being lonely and being alone. Sometimes, alone was exactly where you wanted to be. The quiet computer guy had won after all.